Yes, I was going to recite an excerpt, and I had my phone to do it. Welcome to our first book club meeting for the Circle at Michelle Street. My name is Desiree Maxwell. I'm here with Sister Sophia and all the community of the Sister Circle. So we would love to start with an introduction. We'll start with Josh, and we'll do an introduction for all the participants here, and then we will then start.
Do you need a mic?
Oh, sure, but that's all I was going to say for now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Would you like to do the job?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. And that's the dua of Musa, where he said, O Allah, open for me my breast and make easy my affair and take out the knot from my tongue so that they may understand my speech. I want to read an excerpt from Surah Al-Alaq. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. This translation is from the Noble Quran, Sahih International Quran. Recite in the name of your Lord who created man from a clinging substance. Recite, and your Lord is the most generous, who taught by the pen, taught man that which he knew not. Shukran.
All right. Oh, those are on a mic. All right. So maybe we could start off with introductions from just the participants. Thank you for joining us today. So just with your name and where you're coming from, and that's it. I'm Desiree Maxwell. I'm a member of Masjid al-Sharif. And then we'll have a more formal introduction for our authors here. So if you could so again, thank you so much for being here. We wanted to start it off, most book clubs just pick a book and then decide, or that's what we're going to do. But we thought it would be a beautiful thing to, as from the lineage from many of our communities, it is to tell story and share story. And it is Islamic tradition to engage in writing and authorship and reading and knowledge seeking. And so we thought, why not recognize, acknowledge, appreciate, and boost up the sisters, the authors who are in our community or part of our community. So we wanted to introduce, we have 4 authors speaking today, 3 of whom are here with us right now. Sister Charmaine Holland, Sister Daima Hardan, Sister Bayana Salahuddin, and Sister Naomi Saifullah. And one of the sisters will join us a little bit later. And so I can either read your introduction or you could introduce yourself, however feels good for you.
It's always good when you introduce somebody.
All right. So I have an introduction here for our sister Charmaine Holland. Sister Charmaine has an impactful vision in leadership as an entrepreneur, passionate speaker, author, and chaplain, and above all, a clear and precise direction of her purpose and future. Sister Charmaine focuses on empowering women to become authentic so they can stand aligned in their purpose, as well as help individuals become build a successful career. For the past 39 years, she's dedicated her time to serving 40,000 women and more by sharing techniques and providing solutions to help them uncover life trauma and rediscover their true purpose so they can follow their dreams. She is current in and out of at Linwood County Prison in LA or Los Angeles, as well as a mentor to the surviving women from human trafficking. Wherever Sister Charmaine is called, she is there to help and serve humanity. And she's the author of 2 books, Walking in Your Purpose and Walking with Grace. Oh, and we got a proper mic here. Thank you so much. Yeah. Test. Okay. All right, so we will, just because we have several authors here today and we want to hear from everybody, I'll have a timer, and so we'll just take about 2 to 3 minutes to just introduce yourself, and then after that we'll be reading passages from each of your books. So just a 2 to 3 minute introduction of each of you. I'll just go this way. Oh, yeah. Okay. Just to introduce yourself.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Bayina, but I write under the pen name Peacock Secrets. So you can find me online at Peacock Secrets Poetry. But I'll share with you a little bit about myself. I like to say I reside at the intersectionality of many groups. I'm Muslim, Black, a woman, and a survivor of abuse that has affected me both mentally and physically. And rather than the term disabled, I prefer a term I learned from Dubai, which is a person of determination. And I feel that Allah has blessed me with determination as a recurrent blessing in my life, alhamdulillah. It helped me earn my bachelor's degree and my master's degree at Duke University back on the East Coast. It helped me become a hijabi scuba diver. There I was in my abaya and scarf and men's pants underneath so it could be nice and baggy, and socks, and and underneath all that, a wetsuit. And then on top, the flippers and the scuba gear. So it has also motivated me. I think that determination made me feel like there's no reason I can't do something from an Islamic perspective. I think sometimes we're kind of treated like maybe women won't do or shouldn't do this or that. And I like to make sure that, are we sure we can't do that? Let's see, Islamically, as long as there's a way Islamically, then let's do it. So over the course of my life, sometimes that the physical health challenges that I faced became so strong that really what I was left with most strongly was my mind, and that determination, the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions. And there is something extremely powerful about getting that out on paper. So my determination became more poetic, and it had a branch of health consciousness because I was writing to feel better and to do better and to dream of being better and to get my voice out there, to feel heard. And that is a very powerful tool for mental health as well as physical health. By daring to honor myself and giving myself a voice, by uplifting myself and my groups that I like, Black people, women, by standing up for people, I challenged myself to be the change as much as I could be from that position of inability sometimes.
Thank you so much, Sister Bayana.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Naomi Saifullah. I am Black Puerto Rican from Chicago, and I'm a baby author. I just published, so I'm kind of new to this. So I'm from Chicago, and I wrote because, like, This book wasn't planned. I never thought I would be a writer. I never aspired to be a writer. I was never interested in writing, but I love people's stories and biographies. I love history, and so I wrote, and I wrote my memoir because I feel like it's important that we know our stories, especially like Sister shared about coming from family trauma. I grew up in foster care. I grew up with lots of murders in my family. And we have this thing in our community, Black and Latino, where we say, generational curse. And I don't believe in that. I feel like it's just these patterns and these behaviors that we are picking up from the previous generation and environment. So I wrote my story to heal myself, to get it out of myself. It was like something like giving birth. I don't want to go through this. It hurts, but it's got to come out. And I just want to share because I know that I'm not the only one. I'm not the last. I'm not the first. And just to kind of make it, to encourage us to look at the patterns in our life and to, be, to be, what's the word, like to be proactive in our healing and to make sure that while we're not perfect, that we are not, like to be careful what we are then passing on to the next generation, what patterns and what pains and stuff like that. So.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your introductions. So I think from here, what we're going to do is people are going to read a prompt from their book or a section of their book and speak to that. And then we'll have 2 questions and the rest will be Q&A and just socializing and connecting. Okay. So we just wanted to ask each author to read a passage of your book, maybe something meaningful for you that resonates with you and maybe speaks a message or a theme from the book. And then if you could tell us a little bit as to why you chose that one and what significance it holds for you. And then and we'll go left to right.
All right, so this is Charmaine. My book.
And I'll give you a 2-minute, everybody a 2-minute.
My book I have here is Walking in Your Purpose. And the passage that I wanted to read. What is love? Love is a powerful force of the word derived from the universe as energy. Love was designed to shape and form us into many different elements to help bring balance into our lives. If love is giving with the right spirit and the right energy, one can feel uplifted, happy, joyful, and given in any given time. Sometimes the wrong energy can misuse the power of love and damage us emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Love was designed for a spiritual purpose, to place from within, to bring the best out of us at any given time through mind, body, and spirit. The reason why I picked love, because love is universal. Love is what cheers me up. Love is what gets me motivated and keeps me happy and full of energy and life where I can go and spread it around other people. Love is help us in healing process. Whenever we're going through something, love is the only thing that will heal us in any situation that we're going through. And so that is the reason why I choose love. Love is the answer to everything. I mean, sometimes, just example, the other day I was with, at the store picking up some things, and this lady was like, oh, I love to read book. I was sharing about the book club. She said, I love to read book, but my eyes is horrible. And she just kept putting herself down and putting herself down. I said, okay, stop. That's a sign that you don't love yourself. Your eyes have nothing to do with the situation. It's what you are doing to your body that's causing your eyes to be the way they are. I said, all right, how is your eating habit? Oh, it's horrible. But instead, she focused on her eyes, not how she take care of herself. So love have to do with how we accept ourselves for who we are and accept us where we at and grow from it. Until we understand what love really means, we'll be struggling trying to become the best person who we can be so we can walk in our purpose. So I don't know, my 2 minutes up.
As I said, I write under Peacock Secrets Poetry, and in this collection of books, in this anthology, this book, a collection of poems. My poems start on page 169 in this edition. So I'd like to read one of my poems in here, and it's called Statues of Limitations. So what's the statute of limitations on racists and their statues? You've never heard, excuse me, my bad. Okay.
Right there. You want to sit over here where less air at you or anything? You want to sit over here where there's less air from the AC? Yeah, here, come over here. You're welcome, darling.
You'd like to introduce yourself? A 2-minute introduction for each author. And then Sister Diana will continue with you after the Sister. I mean, if you wanna, whatever. Or you can from there.
Oh, okay, thank you. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I'd like to apologize to you. The alarm went off and I think I cut it off and that was the end of that. I woke up, it was an hour later. So, a little late, better late than never. I'm Dolores Jardin. I was born Dolores Jardin. I'm Dolores Daima Jardin now. I'm one of those few people who are left whose parents were following the Ahmadiyya Muhammad when I was born. So I've been around a long time. And I thank Allah that I'm still around. And I also thank Allah that He blessed me at this time in my life to write my biography. I thought that would be something nice to do. And I've just finished it. It is complete. However, we haven't completely decided how how the book cover is going to look. That's the one thing we haven't finished. We're in the process, and inshallah, we'll get that done next week. That's what the sister tells me. The sister who is publishing my book, editing and publishing my book is in Detroit. I don't know whether any of you know her. She's Sister Zarina El-Amin, and she's a publisher. And also, she had these huge, as you like, huge wraps on your head. She makes those too. She has a lot of those. So, inshallah, she tells me that we should be finished next week or at least before the end of the summer. So, that's it. That's me. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Thank you. So we're gonna, what we're doing right now is we're just, each of the sisters is reading a section of their book. Since you don't, I don't know if you have your book here, but if not, then you could just share
Yeah, my book is finished, but it's not. Okay, so I have it in my cell phone.
so we'll have sister by, so each sister is gonna read a portion of their book. And then you could use this as well. That's.
Are both working? Okay. Alrighty, let me get to the right page. So alhamdulillah, this book, Poetic Justice, is a collection of 200 pages worth of poems. There are about 40 authors, and we have 40 authors, and we have about 70 poems in here about justice for Black people, Uyghur Muslims in China, Palestinians, and even for the environment. So the piece I want to read you is called Statues of Limitations by me, Peacock Secrets. So what's the statute of limitations on racists and their statues? You've never seen a statue of Hitler, have you? I guess his hatred matters because he killed millions of whites and Jews, but tens of thousands of the abused and doomed had that Jesus skin and hair, that bronze and wool. Bet you never knew. Nazis killed the handicapped, the poor, Gentiles, and Blacks too. On the bloody scales of justice, white genocide blood just weighs more than ours do. But back to the racist statues. If Hitler can't have one, how could Columbus, Lee, and Leverhulme? Only one reason resonates as true. KKKers feel more affection for stone than human blood, bones, spines, and sinews. So no more imploring just to be refused. Snatch down those statues. Use ropes knotted into a noose. Whips, chains, jack boots. Fire hoses, batons, and hooves. Bring branding irons. Surround those statues. Sling slurs and abuse. Yes, it's time for each and every racist statue to taste the same treatment that Black bodies do. Thank you. That was Statues of Limitations by Peacock Secrets Poetry. I chose this because it's one of the 3 poems I have in here. It really does bother me that even after 2020 and the murder of George Floyd and all this supposed wokeness by the world, we still have these racist statues, and there are people who will bald-faced lie to you about the reasons why they're there. Those statues are there to perpetuate racism. There's no historical lesson or nothing like that. There's no statue of Hitler. So why are we doing this? What's the real reason? And I think these people's intentions are very clear. You can see it just by looking at the statues.
Okay, assalamu alaikum. So, the part I wanted to share in my book was kind of my parents' story. Once again, my book is a memoir of growing up dysfunctional family. My parents were involved in gangs from Humboldt Park. The 80s, it was very crazy back in those times. So I wanted to share something that I didn't learn until I was older that my mother went through. So one day, my parents were walking down the street near Humboldt Park. My father said that my mother had just taken a Valium and he was walking her home. These fellow female gang members that didn't like her pulled up with smiles and excitement in their voices. They invited my mother to jump in so they could joyride. My mother had no reason to be suspicious. These females didn't like her, but since they weren't open about it, my mother was oblivious. My father immediately knew that something wasn't right. With my mother on volume, he knew she was in no condition to defend herself should something happen. He had a bad feeling, and these females did not have good intentions. These females acted like they really wanted to hang out with my mother and have a good time. My mother didn't have many friends since she didn't trust people, so her guard was down, the volume. She may have felt that she was being accepted into a group. My father tells them that my mother isn't going with them, and they start accusing my father of being jealous and controlling. The girls instigate an argument with my parents, and my mother jumps in the car with these females to prove her independence, and they drive away. My father, feeling powerless because there was nothing he could do, walked to my mother's parents' house to wait for her. These females ended up driving into the park and jumping my mother. I don't know if this was immediate or if they had my mother for a while. At least one of them stabbed my mother over 10 times, all over her body. Sorry. And then left her bleeding on the ground. My mother was less than 100 pounds, and she was only 14 years old. Thank God a man found my mother, who was lying on the ground. He picked her up and he ran while carrying her to the emergency room of the nearest hospital. I don't know if there was a police report taken, and I doubt if those females were ever legally charged. My mother's family was very close and had powerful friends in the streets at the time, so I doubt they got away with it. At least I hope they didn't. And I share this story because my mother is very hard. And I think a lot of us have the previous generation, they were abused, they were traumatized, and they never talked about it. And I felt like I wanted to share that story to kind of like remind us that, you know, and I know it's not a cop-out, that people that have hurt us have been hurt. And if we do not recognize that pain, then we will hurt others too. And we'll just see who hurt us, but we'll never see who we hurt. And then the cycle will continue. So, thank you. Sorry.
Oh, it's my turn now?
Yes.
I gotta find mine. Even if I do not find it, I mean, I've read this thing so many times, I think it's,
Yeah, you could just use that. You
excuse me?
You could share. Yeah,
Okay, hold on.
and we have about 10 minutes.
Excuse me?
We have 10 minutes to talk about.
In 2 minutes, in 2 minutes, in 2 minutes, she'll let you know.
Oh, 2 minutes?
So then I'll let you when you have 2 minutes left. You have 8 minutes.
Yeah, okay. So I have 2 minutes to talk. Oh. Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum. I kind of thought about, okay, what would they really want to hear today? And the thing that came to my mind was you might want to hear what happened on Friday, what is that? April. Let me think now. Friday. April 27, 1962. You might want to hear something about that. So I said, well, I'm going to go through that very quickly. April 9, okay. I have to make sure that's the correct date. For those of you who do not know, my late husband, late for a long time, Ronald T. Stokes, was, as the brothers say now, assassinated by Los Angeles LAPD. What happened was on that particular night, it was a Friday night, and it's after the meeting. Um, my husband was a secretary, and he was upstairs in the temple doing whatever he needed to do to close out for the night. And then he heard all this commotion downstairs. So he came downstairs, and I was in the temple, in the interior part of the temple. And he came and he said, I have to go outside and see what all the commotion is. And so from what I was told and have read, when he walked out of the door of the temple to the outside, the policeman, am I holding this incorrectly? Are you hearing me? Do you?
Yeah.
Is this better? Oh, okay. So when he walked out of the door with his hands up, this policeman, and I will never forget his name, Donald Weiss, shot him in the chest. And after he dropped to the ground, he beat him in the head with his baton. And he was deceased. He was dead. But the thing that I read, somebody sent me this piece from the newspaper where it said after they did that, after they shot him, beat him in the head with the baton, they handcuffed him, hands to the back, and handcuffed him. He's already dead now. Then he handcuffed him. To me, that was an extremely dramatic experience that I will never forget. And and I was in the temple with we had a 4-month-old daughter. So that to me, and that is, if people ask me, why is your book called Etched into My Soul? That would be etched into your soul for life. Oh, assalamu alaikum.
I want to thank everybody for sharing a passage from your book. So if each one of you could respond to what led you, and I think you already started to get into this, but what inspired you to write your book? And what inspired you just to actually put pen to paper to tell your story, to share your perspective, to share your culture. So, and you have 5 to 8 minutes, and then I'm giving a 2-minute warning. Sorry, I'm going to everybody. So just share who or what inspired you to write this book or just general.
Okay. Can you do me a favor? Can you let me know when I get down to like 3 minutes so I can start wrapping it up? Okay. So for me, walking in your purpose, all my life I've kind of been dealing with life, that we all deal with life. And for me, I was the 6th sibling out of 7 of us. So I was the baby girl. So growing up, I was a tomboy. So I had to protect myself. And I ended up having friends that I ended up protecting them as well, family members. And I became a teen mom at the age of 13. And I always wanted to write a story of my life. But during my journey in my life as being a tomboy and protecting everybody in school, I didn't realize I was protecting them until I got older. But I said, Sheree, you always use protectors, protect us. And I said, really? I didn't even know. But being a mother, I realized that I'm going through a journey grabbing things that I need so I can be able to fulfill my purpose in life. And the book is really about walking in purpose. And I wanted to first start off by sharing a quote from Oprah Winfrey that really touches me, that resonates with my book. And it says, there is no greater gift that you can give or receive than to honor your calling. It is why you were born and how you become most truly alive. So for me growing up, I was kind of just going through the motions, as in just protecting myself out in the world, being a teen mom and being there for my child. And then, trying to get a good job to take care of my child and learn business and learn life. So I'm just going through the motions, just doing what everybody else is doing. But somewhere deep inside of me, there's something else was calling me for me to be able to shine my light. It's like you do so much for other people, but you forget about yourself. And I was working for a company where I was there for 18 years and I was a CFO. And I loved it. I was making over $100,000 a year. My kids, everybody was comfortable. But then all of a sudden I started going to work and forgetting things because it was time for Charmaine to stop focusing on everybody else and start focusing on Charmaine. And so I knew that it was time for me to step back. If not, my health was being challenged. So I took the opportunity. It was hard, but I had to step out on faith and walk away from a $100,000 job to go on unemployment and only make $2,400 or something a year or whatever. But it was worth it. And when I stepped away from my job, I think I rested like 4 weeks straight. I mean, I never had that much rest. And we don't realize that our body carries so much of our emotions and stress and everything. And I was having many strokes while I was working because I kept looking at my face and I see one side was drooping and the other side, I said, something ain't right. And I knew it was time to walk away, but you so used to, you just got to do the hustle and bustle. But it was truly a blessing for me because that's when I realized that I need to take care of Charmaine. I have my children that I need to take care of them. And so when I shut down for the 4 weeks, rested, when I got back up to myself, I was like a shiny penny. I mean, I was so renewed again. I was like, okay, now I'm on a new journey. What are you going to do next? And during that time, it was a recession. 2009, I had to invest in myself. So I started my business. I started a financial business helping entrepreneurs, get understand their business and help them to understand what financial statements look like. How are they making money or are they losing money? So I've been doing that for many years. Then COVID happened. COVID was definitely a wake-up call for me, and it was a truly blessing for me because, like I said, I know there's something inside of me that needed to come out, and I was afraid. You know how you want something so bad, but you don't know how it's going to look or what it looks like. God keep giving me a vision, and I'm thinking, okay, well, how do I manifest it? How do I put it out there? And I've always had women come to me all my life. Since I was a teen mom, it's like I had a sign on my forehead, come see Charmaine. She can help you with your problems. And I loved it. I mean, it gave me so much energy. So COVID happened and I wanted to change. It was a change that I was looking for. And I wanted to come outside my comfort zone. And I started going on social media, and I ended up just doing everybody was shut down. So I went on social media and I said, you know what? I'm just going to just talk to everybody. I said, look, I need to talk to people. I need to come. I need to find me. You know what I mean? And so sometimes you can't find you when you're just talking to a few people. So I just started talking to everybody on social media. Everybody sounded like it was good conversation. Charmaine was just dropping gems or whatever. And then all of a sudden people started responding to Charmaine. And then I happened to come across he's a radio personality. His name is Michael Bazin, and I happen to be on his social media page. And just the dialogue, and he's the author of 8 books. He never mentioned anything about his books, but somehow you know how your energy will go and connect to another person's energy. And just talking and just conversating with all his 10 million followers and him, asking questions and having you think. That's what made me start writing my book, Walking in My Purpose. And I don't know, it's a conversation, the energy that I was getting, but during COVID was just such a wake-up call for me. I decided and I said, you know what, I'm coming out this comfort zone. And so I had to start dealing with, my book has a lot of affirmations. And so affirmations are powerful. We have to speak into ourselves. And so I had to learn how to speak into myself and believe it and stand in it so I can own it. So when we speak, we actually putting out a command. So I used to always go places and I never felt like I felt there, like I would belong there, and so it's like sometimes we have to accept ourselves and say, okay, you have to accept who you are and where you at. Some places you ain't supposed to be at. And that's what I had to learn. So a lot of things in my book where I talk about acceptance and having belief and having courage and overcome self-doubt and overcome self-esteem and let go of fear and be gratitude and go through the healing process and understand the true meaning of love. All these attributes allow me to be able to stand in my purpose. And now that I'm in my purpose, I wrote this book during COVID. And then now that I'm in my purpose, now you still go through another transition. It's like, okay, now that I'm in my purpose, how do I thrive through the purpose? Well, I wrote a book called Walking with Grace. And so now I got grace and purpose. So purpose helps me to be able to it helped me to be able to identify my purpose. My purpose is motivated speaking. I love to empower and help women overcome their trauma and help them to see life in a different perspective. So my little tag is called Change Lives, Change Perspective, because I can change your whole negative vibe into a positive perspective where you can see the beauty in everything. And then grace helps me to be able to keep moving even when things don't look like it's the way it's supposed to look. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to say that, me writing my book, God will show you how it looks at the beginning and he'll show you the ending, but you never know how you're going to get there. And so it's all about walking in your purpose. So thank you for allowing me to share. Alhamdulillah.
Follow that. Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Perfect. Very good. Okay, I'm sorry. The question was, why did we write the book? Or? Okay. I would say one thing that inspired me to write was, especially in Islam, I hear this a lot. People saying, if you come from a traumatic background, if you're a convert, whatever, and you have a strange relationship with your parents, estranged. The Ummah has a good intention, but they're like, no, you have to fix, you have to, and they don't understand that, like they don't understand that some of us, for example, some of us that acquired, let's say, bad habits, Muslim or not Muslim, some of us that have like not healed correctly, and then finally found Islam or started practicing Islam just to kind of like cope with that trauma. I feel like when it comes to the part where we're telling our stories or we're expressing that, we don't have a good relationship with our parents, that we're kind of pushed to it. Oh, you have to keep the ties and things of that nature. So I shared my story to kind of like, in one way, explain that, some of us that, I'm not going to say if I do or if I don't have a relationship with my parents, but I'm going to say that for those of us, for people who don't understand the dynamics of certain families and if we're close to our parents or not, it's kind of best to like just make sure that person is healed, because we all have like different triggers. We don't know what that is, So, and then I'll read a little bit of, it gives the why to the book, why I wrote the book. So why tell my story? They say that the past is the past, that it's a waste of time to go back. There is nothing that can be changed. I learned that this is only true if the past is indeed in the past and not in the present. I grew up in the foster care system in the late 1980s to early 90s in Chicago after my brother, who was one, died. My youngest brother and I were taken from our mother and became wards of the state. I was 2 years old. We were first given to our maternal grandparents, and then after a few years passed, placed in foster homes. We were in children's homes, we were in children group homes, and later separated. My brother ended up in a boys group home, and I kept bouncing around the system until I ran away at 16. My father was always in the picture. I don't know why he wasn't given custody of us. We saw him a few times after being placed in foster care. He ended up in prison for 15 years. After so many homes, schools, family members, instability, it started to show in my performance. I failed the 7th grade. I failed the 8th grade, but I was only promoted after completing summer school. I never felt smart and no one showed up for me. As I grew into an adult, I carried this weight, this learned helplessness. I didn't know what it was, but it was always there in the pit of my stomach. This weight that kept me boxed in and not feeling good enough, but it was not depression. It kept me from believing that I couldn't do anything for myself, but I was not sad. I was trained to be quiet and good, which resulted in becoming a people pleaser. So fast forward a little bit. So in 2007, I also became a teenage mother, and I started to see patterns that I was passing on to my kids, things that I didn't want for them to be exposed to, but I didn't know how to stop it. So in 2007, I requested my foster care files because I needed to know my story, like why was I, why were things the way they were? And then that's when my healing began. After I had become bitter and angry, I blamed the world. And then I requested my records. And that's when other stuff started to open up for me. So what's in my book, what you'll find in my book is like excerpts of reports. You'll find DCFX reports. You'll find what people were saying about me that I didn't even know, until I got older. I didn't know why was I moved here? Why this person couldn't adopt me? I thought it was because of me. I was bad. I found out later, no, because your time was up. Back in those days, the laws have changed because of the damage it does to children. But my brother and I were in foster care literally for over 10 years. Now there's a limit because it messed up children. So if you are in a foster home, at least in Chicago in the 80s, 90s, you only have up to 2 years to be with that family, even if it was good, because they didn't want you guys to get attached. So it was, and so me not understanding the system, I'm a kid, I'm just shuffled. They don't want me. Did I do something? I got to act better. So getting my records and knowing my story and how it benefited me and helped me to know, not only for a lot of things not my fault, but it's the fault of Allah. Allah exposed me to lots of things, plucked me from my family to have a different perspective that I now share with my, my siblings in my family that I otherwise would have never gotten. But number one is it got me close to God. When I started to look into my past is when I started to get into church. I became involved in ministry. I was a speaker. I worked in ministry, and then eventually I became a speaker.
SubhanAllah, I'm seeing a common thread. Mental health. I mean, just mental health and the trauma that's passed on from generation to generation, and the early trials and tribulations we face in life as women, as Black people, as children at that time. The youth, life is full of so much trials and tribulations, and Shaitan is out here busy. SubhanAllah, I was, try not to get emotional. I was physically disabled for about 25 years. I still deal with some of the challenges today, but alhamdulillah for progress and for the strides I made in my health that I didn't think was ever going to come, and the miracles Allah has done for me, the blessings He's done for me, I should say. But after about 23 years or so into it, after giving up hope, I was like, I'm not even supposed, in my mind, I wasn't even supposed to ask Allah to get healed. That instead, the Islamic thing to do would be to practice acceptance. And I remember making dua, and I said, Allah, if you heal me, I will tell everyone what you've done for me. And I made so much dua, I did so much ruqyah. I started making my intention that even in Salat, the surahs I was reciting was for my healing. And every time somebody else was leading the Salat, I repeated every letter after them so that it could be for my healing.
I, subhanAllah, I was at the end of my rope, really. And I did not know that the emotional can cause such physical pain, that emotional trauma, things from childhood, things even from adulthood can affect the body and cause the body to shut down and have autoimmune diseases and autoimmune syndromes where you don't know how to get out of it. There's no medicine, no procedure, no anything that'll get you out of it, subhanAllah. Just turning to Allah. And subhanAllah, he blessed me with the ability to come across a couple books. And it was through the masjid, actually. I met a sister at the masjid, and I was asking her for assistance. And I said, can you come to my house and help me? And she got me in touch with her son, who, mashallah, had gotten better. And all the health challenges he faced, he was overcoming them by reading books. And you think, how can you get better just by reading a book? And subhanAllah, I listened to the brother, and the first book he recommended was a book someone tried to offer me in college. And I didn't have the time to read it, subhanAllah. So here I am finally reading this book. And subhanAllah, it's like with Yaqub alayhi salam. When he lost Yusuf, he was very sad, right? But then when he lost Benjamin too, that's when he cried. And it says in the Quran, that his eyes went white out of the sadness he used to repress. And that word is so powerful, repress, the things we've repressed. And we don't know, we think we've gotten over them, or we think we've taken the high road, or whatever it is. SubhanAllah. So I started reading these books, and I started getting better, alhamdulillah, by working on my subconscious, my emotions, my mentality, setting up a balanced lifestyle, having boundaries, not being a people pleaser, and learning, and still I'm learning, And subhanAllah, one of the things I learned was that you had to journal. You had to get your feelings out. And because that was the solution, my subconscious was completely averse to it. Because it was the solution, I could not write because I didn't want to, but I needed to, and I wanted to, but I didn't want to. I just couldn't seem to make myself do it. And one day, subhanAllah, I was able to force myself to do it by writing a poem. And then, it took me years to even get to that point. And I said to my therapist, make me write. And they kept trying to make me write. And one day it finally stuck. And I wrote a poem about what I'd been through. And subhanAllah, I shared the poem with Naomi. And she liked it. And then her kids liked it. And her husband liked it. And then I thought, okay, I might be onto something here. So I started writing more and more. And I showed it to my therapist. And then it was like, keep going. And subhanAllah, I think that one of the worst things that can happen to a person is for them to believe that they have no voice. I think that is at the basis of so many other physical afflictions, addictions, trauma, stress, everything. This idea that you're just stuck. And not only will things not get better, but maybe Allah wants it this way, and he just wants for you to be in this difficult situation, as opposed to knowing that Allah wants you to get through a difficult situation. I felt like I was stuck suffering emotionally, but telling the truth and putting that on paper and not being afraid, because sometimes you're afraid as a Muslim to say what you're going through because that looks bad to, in my mind, it would look bad on the Muslim community because the people who had perpetrated these violent crimes and who had done some of these things were Muslim. So I thought, well, I can't tell a non-Muslim. I can't even tell a non-Muslim therapist. And I can't tell Muslims because, the advice they'll give me will not be suited for a person who has gone through trauma, as opposed to the average person, Like you said, it has to be suited for the situation. So sometimes people, they have good intentions, but they're not a scholar, so they can't give you scholarly advice. SubhanAllah, going through that journey, that made me start speaking my mind on paper. And that's when I decided I wanted to become a spoken word artist. SubhanAllah, I pull my inspiration from Buna Muhammad, Kamal Saleh, Amel Qasir, so many other Muslims who are doing this, Muslim Bilal, and they're all on YouTube. And it's like, SubhanAllah, this is a powerful thing. This in fact was our thing. Muslims were doing this even during the time of the Prophet. So yes, get your voice out there, and it will help someone else heal the ignorant time.
What inspired you to write? What inspired you to write? Either what inspired you to write this book or to write in general?
Okay, let's go there. I was trying to find a section in there. I couldn't. Okay. Assalamualaikum again. And okay, is that close enough? Oh yes, when I can hear myself, I know I'm close enough. I just have to be so thankful to Allah for my dream, the way I was brought up in Islam. I mean, I'm sitting out here listening to these sisters, and I have never experienced any of these things that they have. And I attribute that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I attribute that to the fact that even though we were very poor, came from a family of 12 children, two of them died in infancy, and the other one was a teenager, probably Leroy was about 12, 13 years old. And like I said, we were poor, but my father was very protective of us. And yeah, and I've never experienced the thing that they have. And I'm so thankful to Allah that I have not. I mean, there are things that I didn't want, didn't have, that I thought I needed, but really didn't. So all I can say is, alhamdulillah, thank you, dear Savior. What I say all the time, I thank Allah all the time for each and everything. If I forgot something and then I got it back, and I say, thank you, dear Savior. So I'm really grateful to Allah that I haven't experienced those things. And I'm almost 90 years old. And, inshallah, if He blesses me to live until August 8, I'll be 88 years old. And I've had some hardships, but, nothing like that. So what am I supposed to be talking about? I got so involved with these sisters, like, wow.
Part of why we wanted to do this again, because again, most book clubs are like, all right, we pick a book, let's talk about it. Here it's like, books are the living, are our stories. And how can we not be, I heard a couple times, I don't want to be emotional. Why not? This is an emotional thing. It's okay, like, I want to do it, I can't talk. But so alhamdulillah, it makes sense that we're being moved. That's part of why we did this. So if you could tell us a little bit as to what inspired you to write your book.
Okay, what
inspired you to write in general?
Actually, I hadn't really thought about writing a book. And I remember, I'll be pleased with him, Imam, what's his name? Oh, gosh. Imam, he passed about almost 2 years ago. I can't think of his name. And he was like, oh, Sister John, you should write your book. You should write a book. Oh, wow, write that. Why don't you write it? I never really thought about it. Then there was a sister in LA. Actually, she had been Muslim most of her life. Sister Anna Lee, we lost last year, uh, and she had a writing class. So I said, well, why don't I get in a writing class and see? So I started, and that's when I got interested in writing my autobiography. And I'm sorry, I want to think about this email name. Gosh, and that's kind of interfering with what I'm trying to tell you also. Okay, so I went to her class and started writing a book. Just started writing, and then I said, "Well, I can turn this into a book." So, when in 2017, I went to DC to that huge library. I wanted to see that. And then on my way there, I said, oh, okay. On my way there, I'll just have my little pad and my pen, and I'll write from LA to DC. And then on my way back home, I wrote from DC back to LA. And that's when I started writing my book and attending her class. And she and her husband both did the class, attending that and started writing my autobiography. I guess if people are telling me, you need to write it, you need to tell about your life. Yeah. So I said, well, maybe I should. So yeah, I started writing until I finished. Then we'll see how it comes out. It's about 200 and some pages. So, inshallah, before the summer is over, Sister Zarina Alamin tells me that I'm going to have a book. So, I mean, I'm finished with what I want to put in it, but we'll see. Okay, sound like.
And then the last question that we wanted to ask everybody is, and I think, again, people have already been weaving it into their responses, so, but if you have an author or a poet or somebody that, or a book that inspired you, that evoked similar emotions that you're hoping to evoke, so that you're author or book recommendation or artist.
For me, I have a huge library. I buy books based on how my energy and my spirit will cause me to get a book. I can grab a book and I can sit it down for probably about a couple months until it's time for me to pick up that book. A lot of books that I do purchase and buy, I don't really complete the whole book. I go through books and only find what I need at the moment. But for me, I can only relate to myself and how books have inspired me to make me who I am today is the Quran. When I turned 30, the Quran, and I'm gonna just say religion in general because I started with the Bible first growing up or whatever. And then I was introduced to Islam when I was 30. And it was almost as if I knew the book already. The beautiful thing about when you're recommending a book is what you get from it. That book taught me so much about who I am and how to be disciplined and know what I want out of life because all the religion books, you're talking about messengers, prophets who came before you. Their story is no different than your story. Maybe the time was different, but what I got to get through now, I might have to use Joseph as my uplifting, my motivation to get me to where I need to be at. So I'm going to have to say any book that taught me is the Quran, and then also W.D. Muhammad teaching, his wisdom, his knowledge, and understanding how to take that book and apply it to my day-to-day life has got me to where I'm at now in the prison, helping women in human trafficking that I can pour into them because I have overcome a lot of challenges that was in my blueprint, my DNA that I had to go through to be who I am. So I would have to say that, not taken away from any other authors because everybody got a story in them. And every story is going to help uplift, motivate, and inspire others. But that was for me. And I continue to read it because it just uplift and motivate me every single time. There's no book better than the book from the past that can help you. It's almost kind of like sitting there with grandma and listening to grandma's stories and say, okay, grandma, this is the way I got to do it. Okay, let me move forward. So I leave you with that.
Like Sister Charmaine, I read lots of books also. I love biographies. I am a genealogy. I'm a little obsessed. I watch Long Lost Families. I want to test everybody's genealogy. My kids, everybody. I love history. I read lots of books about, I read everybody's biography. Viola Davis. I love biographies. I just read maybe for the second time, Up From Slavery. But just like the sister, for me, start off the Bible. And, coming from Christianity, start off the Bible. And in particular, the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, again, with that whole, he's this little kid and his brothers, they abuse him, they discard him, they leave him for dead. He's abused, let's say, and then he goes to the separation and not until he's, and I'm paraphrasing and using my own words, but not until he's old enough to defend himself is he put in a position to then face his brothers. He's not weak no more. He don't need them no more. He's not vulnerable no more. He's got the upper hand. So not until that point is he in a position to then not only confront his brothers, but then forgive them and then build a new relationship because he doesn't need them in the same way that he may have needed them when they were little. So even reading that in the Bible, that spoke to me. There's lots of stories in the Bible, there's lots of stories, but that one, and then when I became a Muslim and because I thought I was gonna go to seminary school, and then when I was working as a community counselor, there was a Muslim who came in, an older brother. I wouldn't recognize him, and we are supposed to evangelize, and I wasn't big on that, but I was, you have to ask, how are you doing spiritually? And he's like, I'm great, I'm a Muslim. And I love cultures. I've always loved cultures. And I was like, ooh, you're Muslim. What's that? And, because growing up, because in Chicago, I was exposed to you have your stereotypes, you have your types, Chicago Avenue, But so I'm like, Muslim, okay, how was your relationship with Jesus? Alayhi salam. And he said, I love Jesus more than I love myself. Christians don't even talk like that. And I was like, okay, what is this Islam? What is this? And so, I just started to have different experiences being in the Bible. I taught the Bible, and then I thought that I was going to, because you guys believe in Jesus, right? And people say I hear some Muslims that say, I believe in the Bible. Well, then I need to help you. You all need to become Christians. So that's what I thought. You believe in Jesus. You say you believe in the Bible. So you don't know this chapter. You read this part. Why we ain't? What's going on? So that's what I thought. So I started to get interested in Islam, but not for me. And then I would say, oh, I like this, but I'm not a Muslim. I like this part. Oh, I pray 5 times a day, but no, I'm not Muslim. Oh, I like this. Fajr in the Bible, it says that Dawood alayhi salam would raise the sun to worship Allah. So when I learned about Fajr, I was like, oh, but alhamdulillah, so the Quran, just like Sister Charmaine said, it's like the Bible changed my life, but then the Quran gave purpose to my life. It's like the Bible shook me and said, okay, and then it's like the milk, and then the Quran fixed everything, fixed the rumors, how I kept reading the Quran. I know you've heard the story, but let me tell you the real version. I was like, oh my gosh. Oh, I was telling everybody about Islam. They're like, girl, where you been? I lost all my friends because I was in a world of seminary and seminary students and all my friends. But alhamdulillah, so I would agree, the Bible started me, and the Quran gave me purpose, and it continues to.
Jazakumullahu khairan. I feel like you guys said, subhanAllah. Yes, said it all. I mean, obviously, the Quran, subhanAllah, of course, you know what I mean? SubhanAllah. It was the Quran who commanded us to read in the first place. And the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we're the Ummah of read. And sometimes we forget that reading is supposed to be our thing. SubhanAllah. I didn't think I'd ever become a poet. When I was a kid, I wrote a poem, and one of my siblings wrote a poem, and my poem didn't make it to the fridge. You know what I mean? Like my poem was like, oh, okay, yeah, but so and so, you know. And I thought, oh well, I'm no good at this. Oh, look at that, you know. And then later in life, I must have been emotionally frustrated because I wrote these poems and I kept them to myself. I didn't share with anybody. It was maybe 6 poems or so in a little notebook, and I still have that notebook, like a decade and a half later. SubhanAllah. And then I started watching, years later, I started watching Deaf Poetry Jam. And I'm like, oh, wow, I like this. And yeah, let's see it. Did you know poetry is from Islam and they were Muslim poets? And I started, feeling really good about that. SubhanAllah. And I liked the speaking truth to power. I liked how much they stood up for minorities. I liked how Muslims were poets. Even on Deaf Poetry Jam, you could see Muslim poets. SubhanAllah. And so those all influenced me. And then Buna Muhammad, he took it away, subhanAllah. I mean, I love his poetry, subhanAllah. And I love spoken word more than quote unquote poetry, because poetry and spoken word differ just a little bit, because poetry is about how, not just the words, but how the words are laid out on the page. So they are more of a visual artist. And then the spoken word has a slightly different angle because we are more vocal artists. It's the words of the poem, but also how they're delivered. And I found that I love spoken word. I was listening to Maya Angelou, phenomenal woman. Just subhanAllah, that would lift my mood. That would help me when I was feeling down. Wait, I'm a phenomenal woman. Allah created this. Wait a minute, phenomenally, subhanAllah. There's Paul Laurence Dunbar, another African-American poet, and he wrote about the masks we wear, subhanAllah. And that influenced me to write a poem about the makeup we put on our face just to step outside, that we feel we have to hide. And what's really going on with each sister, subhanAllah. How are we really doing, So all of these influence me. I love Kamal Saleh. I didn't know his name. He's the Australian guy, and he has like a little mole on his nose, and he wears like a white kufi usually in his videos. And you don't know his name because he didn't want to get any attention to himself, subhanAllah. And he wrote all these powerful spoken word pieces. One of them is Nothing to Do with My Prophet, and about how terrorism has nothing to do with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He wrote about loving Jesus. He just such powerful words. And I thought, okay, let me just do this for my little therapy. And then I thought I might maybe could do this. SubhanAllah. So I encourage you guys to check it out. Amal Kassir, she, I believe, is of Syrian descent, and she writes about the things that her country faces, raised here in America. And you just, so many moving things to see other people going through pains, and then you realize that the struggle of Black people, the struggle of Palestinians, the struggle of Uyghurs, the struggle of this one and that one, it's all the same, subhanAllah. So I like her work. I like Muslim Bilal. He's on YouTube as well. His name was Ashley Chen, and then he became Muslim, and subhanAllah, so he writes poetry. Yeah, all of those. I'm big fans into that. And subhanAllah, if you're having a hard time leaving music, go online, look up the Muslim nasheed artists, look up the Muslim poets, and listen to that.
What author influence? I can't really say there are many of them. I would just get a book. Oh, either I'm too close or I'm too far. Okay, either I picked up a book, the cover looked kind of interesting, and I would grab it and read it. And yeah, when I finished, I'll probably put it aside or gave it to someone. I can't say really what influenced me. Uh, I guess once I started writing my autobiography, I wanted to finish. So that's why I finished it. That's all I really. Who do I recommend?
Yes.
Well, I said not anyone particularly. I read books if they look interesting, if the cover looked interesting, and then I would look, read a part of it, some notes or something. If it wasn't really interested, I would just set it aside. So I really can't say. But what intrigued me to finish my book, once I got started, I wanted to finish it. And then there were some things that I couldn't stop writing about. My book, when you read it, is not just about Dolores Jardin, Dolores Saima Jardin. It's about many people who have crossed my path during my lifetime. I talk about these people. I also talk about Islamic scholars from whom I have learned a lot. In 1995, they built masjid in LA on Vermont, masjid, Vermont, and what is that, Exposition in Vermont? I'm pretty sure some of you have been there. And I found the people who taught there. I know I learned so much about the people who taught about Islam, prayers. There was a sheikh from Turkey. He and his son, they stayed in the United States for about 10 plus years. And I used to go, they had an Islamic studies class there. As a matter of fact, I still go to Islamic studies. But they taught there from about 1995 up to 2017. The sheikh went back home to Turkey in the 2010, but he taught us a lot of very short ayats and short the ayat as well as the short surah. I don't know where to put this thing. Short. Excuse me. Closer to me. Okay. Oh, okay. Short surahs, ayats, and I learned so much. It was really. I'm trying to think of the word I wanted to put out there, but I enjoyed that. But did that influence my writing this book? No. Once I got started writing this book, I wanted to finish, and then I would think about, oh, wait a minute. What about so and so, so and so? What about this and that? So I would, oh, wait a minute. I'm gonna have too much in this book, so I'm gonna have to cut off at some point in time, and I did. So I'm like,
Thank you so much, sisters, for sharing each of your stories. Again, as a book club, a circle of sisters, really we get to connect. And as earlier I heard a couple people thread in the group, we're getting people are writing in order to heal, to sharing their story in order to heal, and inevitably heal others. And in just in a short time, I feel way more connected to these sisters. Some of whom first time to meet, some of whom I've known for a little bit, for some time. So again, hopefully we can not only support our sisters verbally, we can share their books through social media because we don't know whose stories these will touch all the sisters around us, and then we can support them by buying their books. This is day number one in book club, so like I think the idea that I'm gonna offer to folks is that we can maybe put the books in a hat and then pick one, and then we'll just go through these books. Because part of me thought, I was like, I wonder when we share this to community, they're gonna be like, why aren't you sharing books on STEM? And I'm like, aren't these books, these stories that we heard, are they not connected to history? Are they not connected to our communities? Are they not living practice of STEM? So I think that's the invitation. We'll think about it and vote on it as a club or whatever collective. Here, if anybody wants to ask the sisters questions, and then we'll conclude. And if you want to get your book signed, but questions.
Yeah, it's not really a question, but I read books and excerpts from their books, and I was so inspired by them that I was like, we have all this knowledge and all these exciting stories and moving stories that we need to get to our community so that all the people here, they don't know about you. But we want them to like having this book club. Maybe we can pick your books, we can read the books, we can go to the bookstore, so that the people in the community can know what wealth of knowledge we have here in Massachusetts. And I was impressed by you telling these stories. I appreciate it.
I'm gonna.
Think about it. So you mentioned that they took you off because they didn't want you guys to get connected, right? Was there last years?
Yeah, there was one time we were placed in a foster for my younger brother and I. We were there a total of 2 years. Within that, unbeknownst to us, my foster mother, I remember her telling me, call me mom. And I was like, no. And my brother called everybody mom. He was a little younger than I. So there was things going on I didn't know. So she's having a conversation with me, Naomi, we're gonna change your last name. And no. And so I don't know in the background that they're saying, my father was in prison. My mother was coming in and out. I didn't know. So I go to school one day and I'm so frustrated because I forget what happens. And I tell my girlfriend, my foster parent, first of all, it was a secret. I was very ashamed to be a foster child. And I'm like, they're just making me so upset because they want me to call them mom and dad. And she's like, they're abusing you? I wrote a letter to my teacher. I'm tired of my foster parents. They're abusing me. I don't know. I put the letter, I drop it off at her desk, I go home. A few days later, my caseworkers are at the house and they're talking, they come in the room, they're like, Naomi, do you know what child abuse means? And I'm like, because you wanted to tell me. That's what it means. No. So, okay, we settled it. They weren't mad at me. But then a few weeks, maybe I would say a few months later, we get moved. So obviously we moved because of me, right? Obviously. So one thing that inspired me to get my records. Years later, when I got my records, I reached and I found that foster mother. And I met her with my daughter, and I said, I really apologize. Because they were great. Like they had money, they were Jewish, they were, but I was like, I apologize if they went out to adopt other kids. And I said, I accused you of abuse, and maybe that's why we weren't adopted. She said, no, you were moved. And that's what I learned. You were moved because it was the deadline. You would have been moved anyways. But see, God gave that to me. Like, she said, I'm so sorry that you felt that. Did you hold that guilt? And I was like, had I not had that, I probably would have been broke. Because I felt like, I grew up feeling like, you know what? Nobody wanted me, but they did. I just didn't let them help me. So they were like, it was like a weird thing for me to like they were like, I looked at them like they were the only ones that wanted me. That had that not happened, I would have had nobody to draw that from. So So yeah, but I didn't know. I didn't know until I got older, you know. And I even asked, you know, my father. He was in prison. He was scrambling to get people to, and eventually my father did. My father got his sister to pull us out. But it was just my mother has 11 siblings. My father 8. So you would think somebody, but it was just so much. My father trying to from within the prison, trying to get us, try not to lose us. So, but there was one official attempt to adopt us, and that was it.
Just because prayer is soon.
Yeah,
Uh,
now.
yes.
Oh, we just wanted to give you a little gift. Thank you so much for coming and participating here. And just looking forward to getting your books so that I don't know if we're going to pick a book as like the book club. We pick one or do one at a time.
Maybe we'll talk about process, but we're happy to connect with you. And so, just for time and for appreciating your presence, thank you so much for your sharing and participation. If you want to ask more questions, we're here until prayer, and you can be here all at once. And again, please buy books. Please tell other people about these books, and please continue to hang out with the book club.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh,
Wait, and we have encouragement.
yeah.
Please.
Also, well, I'd like to ask a question since nobody have a question. Can I ask, anybody over here walking in their purpose? Hope so. And if not, what is holding you back from identifying and walking in your purpose? Because we all was born for that particular reason, walking in our purpose, so we can come truly alive.
You mentioned it, imposter syndrome.
Elaborate on that.
You don't, well, to me, it feels like you don't belong in that particular arena. You know, oh, so and so knows more than me, or so and so has more experience than me. I'm new to this. You know, I'm not. Am I qualified? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm just saying, and that sounds like to me acceptance. You have to accept where you at and accept who you are, and you might be your own leader where you feel uncomfortable going to a place where people need to come to you so you can thrive in doing what you're supposed to do. Does that make sense? Think about that. What about you, sister? Finally. Yes, ma'am.
How walking in your purpose, how do you get past, you know, those like, emotional moments that I had? How do you know when you're healed? How do you know when you're ready? You know.
It's interesting that you said that because yesterday I posted something on social media about your soul knows how to heal yourself. It's just that we get in the way of the guilt, the shame, the blame, this and that, thinking we know it, but we don't. But sometimes we have to silence the spirit and let the spirit talk to you and correct you and give you the wisdom and the knowledge of what you're struggling with to understand so you can be able to move through it. Because that mind, you don't know how to turn it off. And you have to learn how to turn it off because we always get in the way. Sometimes be still in it. Have a question, be still in it, let the question speak to you instead of you thinking you know the answer. And that will help, inshallah.
What I always think, you know, to express emotion. Why? I mean, it's something, it's an expression, it's something that you're giving.
It all depends on how you express an emotion.
Of course, yeah. There's different ways. I mean, but you're thinking about something and then you're just overcome with thoughts about the past, you know, and it just comes out. It's just
Because somehow, I was just going to say, somehow, part of that silence, right? That's that silencing ourselves. We're taught in a society through social interactions, we're taught that we're supposed to apologize for being emotional, right? When for shedding tears, and tears physically and chemically heal. subhanAllah, I didn't think I had a right to have a voice. I apologize for that. I felt that, how do you word it? Like, everybody else is older, everybody else is more experienced, everybody else deserves more respect. I'm just a teenager, for instance, or whatever age. And so I'm never enough to stand up for myself, right? I'm new in the community, I'm this, I'm that. There's always a reason why, or I must be polite. I must take the high road, but there's a way to politely correct something. There's a way to politely stand up for yourself. Somebody might say, can you go downstairs and bring me that box up here? Instead of you saying, oh, well, I'm in pain and this and that, and well, please excuse me, you could just say, no, thank you. There's a polite way. And I think that in dysfunctional settings, we were taught that the way to disagree is to disagree with a lot of anger. So we're not used to politely and cordially and just calmly disagreeing. Oh no, I'll turn that down. We're taught that to be no. Why? Well, I don't feel like. Well, why you got it? Well, it's none of your business. What? Because that's what we saw. We didn't see calm disagreement. We saw that dysfunctional disagreement. So, subhanAllah, we end up doing that to ourselves. We self-bully. And that is one of the ways that trauma becomes physically embedded in the body. It's because you take on the voice of the person who gave you the most dysfunctional criticisms. And either you blame them now, you're still blaming so-and-so from 20 years ago, or you blame yourself. So here you are, either you're hearing so-and-so's voice and all the negative things they said to you, or you're saying it to your own self.
I want to share about when you're thinking about emotional. It's okay to address something as long as you see the benefit in it. As long as it's not tearing you down, but it's uplifting you and you making an impact of someone else to uplift them, then that's healthy. But when it does the opposite, then that's not healthy. It's time to do a check-in and find out why that a trigger for you, because there might be something that you still need healing that you need to overcome to get through it. Like, for instance, example, there's a woman who's 79 years old, and me and her were just talking about relationships or something, and she brought up her stepmother and her father, and I felt the pain. I said, you still carrying that pain? She said, yes, they hurt me. 70 years, she's still holding on to it. She said, Charmaine, I've been trying to get through it, and it's so hard, so I had to give her some homework. And she called me the next day. She said, girl, I'm a changed person now. I said, that's my girl. I said, it's gonna take some time. I said, but I said, it was just, I never heard the way how you explain how I can take that emotion and turn it around and uplift me with it instead of me always thinking, why me, So like I'm just sharing, if it can uplift you and uplift somebody else, then you know that that motion is good. It's understanding the balance of how to use it.
I was just going to say, I have a question about the emotional effects of what you went through when your husband was shot and beaten, right? And you were present.
Yeah, I was inside. I didn't see it.
Right, but you were.
Yes, I was there.
Yeah.
And it stayed with me for years. Couldn't deal with it.
How did you deal?
How did I deal with it? Only Allah knows, but I had people who were so kind. They never talked about it. People that I knew, they never, no. They didn't talk. I was talking to a friend of mine in Chicago, sister I grew up with in Chicago. She's still there in Chicago. And for years, when I would go to Chicago, when I would visit her, we never discussed it. About 10 more years ago, her grandson said, well, Can you ask her for like an interview her? And I said, yes, absolutely. But, you know, she wasn't gonna touch her. But her grandson, you know, who I even hear her around years later, he wanted to interview me. I said, absolutely, sure. It made him feel good. By then, it wasn't bothering me. I think I can hold up long enough to talk to you. But I did.
Yeah, my last question was, can I take a photo?
Oh,
Yeah, everybody, it's one of authors only and then one of everybody.
And I want to just share something quickly. Please check me out online, Peacock Secrets Poetry. You'll find the Peacock Secrets of a Brown Unicorn's Mermaid Butterfly Queen. That's me. I'm sharing my secrets so that they no longer burden me. So check me out on all the socials.
Really good photo.
You want who's coming back for closing remarks, right? Okay, who's closing remarks? Are we done?
I think we're.
Okay, we done.
Yeah.
Since sometimes I don't get it.
My social media is Peacock Secrets. Take a photo.
Everybody's social, or whatever you have, we're gonna put it on.
Okay.
Oh, together. Are we doing it here?
Is that one okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
One, two, three. Well, one for the social media. 1, 2, 3. All right. And then we'll do one with all of us.
You all standing up?